you ever had a really strong emotion and it's just really hard to talk your way out of it, to tell yourself, don't be anxious. Don't be anxious, or don't be mad. And it's really hard when your emotion is really strong. So when your emotion is not that strong, it's easy to reappraise, but when it's strong, it's hard. And here's why. When you're under a high stress condition, like you're really angry, guess what happens? You have loss of prefrontal regulation. Do you see that? Which is why it is so hard to talk our way out of a strong anger, strong sadness, strong fear, strong anxiety. It's almost impossible. And have you ever had that experience where maybe you're anxious about something, maybe you have to go on stage or something, and you're nervous, and someone comes up to you and says, hey, you should just relax. Have you ever had that? How helpful is that, right? Does that work? It doesn't work at all. It's just as unhelpful. Anyway, so, which is why never in the history of calm down has anyone calmed down by being told to calm down. And now you know the research why. And maybe we can take a collective intention to never say that to anyone. So I knew about this and I thought, okay, there's got to be another way. And I'm going to share with you now a story. So about 11 years ago, my husband walks in the room and he's pale. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, Jake was in an IED. So Jake was the officer in charge of the last Humvee on a convoy going across Afghanistan. And all the vehicles passed safely except for Jake's. Jake's drove over a roadside bomb. In that moment, I don't think we can even imagine what that must have been like. The shock, the noise, the shrapnel flying everywhere, the fear, the anxiety, the shock, all of those things. And excruciating pain of severe injury. When Jake opened his eyes, he saw that his legs were very severely damaged. And in that moment, usually you would fall into shock. You would faint. But Jake remembered something he had learned about in a book for officers about what to do in this kind of situation. And it was a breathing exercise. And he started to do this breathing exercise. And because he did this breathing exercise, he was able to regain access to his ability to think clearly. And he was able to do his first act of duty, which was to give orders. His first act of duty was to check on the others in the vehicle. And his second act of duty was to give orders. He gave orders. It gave him the presence of mind to do all those things and to even remember to tourniquet his own legs, to wrap them up, and to prop them upward before falling unconscious. He was then urgently transported to Germany and then to the US. And Jake lost both of his legs, but he kept his life. And he was told, had he not done the things that he did in that vehicle, he would have died that day. And Jake is alive and well in the US. He's on prosthetics, but he has a family, and he's well, and he's alive because he knew how to use his breath in a moment of extreme stress. And I always think if it could help him in that kind of situation, how can it not help us in our hopefully less stressful, but still stressful lives? And that's what I've focused a lot of my research on. But when you have a big stressors, and our life right now is often really stressful, you need something that actually impacts your nervous system, calming you down from within so that you can think clearly again. We know from research that when you make people feel different emotions, their breath actually changes. So they breathe differently when they feel different emotions. But other research shows that when you make people change their breathing, you can evoke emotions in them. And actors know how to use this. So what does this mean? It's so hard to talk our way out of emotions, but using the breath, we can change our physiology to change how we feel. So I'm at Yale University, and students tend to become really stressed by the end of the semester and their mental health goes down. And so we wanted to see, how can we help them so that they don't become as stressed? Or can we help them be resilient to stress over the course of a semester? So we divided them into 4 groups, either a breathing group, the sky breath meditation group, or a mindfulness group, which is a meditation class, or emotional intelligence, which is a class in which they learn things like reappraisal, sort of how to change their thoughts about stress, or a control group that didn't receive anything. And we wanted to see which of these groups performed better. And what we found was that the sky breath meditation class has had much more impact than any of the others. This is comparing the control group to the sky intervention, decreasing stress and depression, increasing mental health, social connection, positive emotion, and mindfulness, much more so than the other groups did. And what we think is it's because it's not just approaching the mind, it's actually going into the physiology and calming the physiology from within, but also bringing in the meditation component. So we were really interested in those findings. And a study at Harvard replicated those findings. It was a similar study, but they put the students in a stressful situation. So imagine being told, hey, come on in here. You're going to sit in this room and we're going to measure your heart rate and everything. And in about 10 minutes, you're going on stage and you're going to speak in front of an audience. Okay. That causes stress in people. But what they found was that those who had gone through the breathing intervention had much less of a stress response than the others. So it's almost as if you can think that it is training your nervous system for stress resilience. Just want to share one more slide, and this is just a summary of research on meditation, which is really goes together with the breathing and the breathing findings, and just how much data is out there now for that it strengthens brain function for self-awareness, emotion regulation, self-control, positive emotion, attention, memory, focus, and creativity. Basically, all of the cognitive faculties that we need to succeed in life are benefited by breathing and meditation. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here. And so it's been a pleasure to present this to you. I hope you found it interesting, and yeah, happy to take any questions if you want to email me.